the Samsung or LG smartphone in your hand, the Hyundai or Kia car that might be on your dream list, that addictive Korean drama you watched on Netflix, or the BTS or Blackpink songs on your playlist. All of this is a reflection of a modern, innovative, and powerful Korea to today's world. South Korea today is a global powerhouse of technology, pop culture, fashion, and economic prosperity. But what if I take your imagination back just 70 years? What was Korea like then? Close your eyes and imagine a war-torn country. The capital Seoul and every city virtually destroyed by bombs. No industries to speak of. All around, only hunger, poverty, and extreme despair. In the late 1950s, South Korea's per capita income was less than $100, less than Ghana in Africa, the Philippines in Asia, or even then, East Pakistan or today's Bangladesh. The country survived solely on aid sent by America and foreign donations. So, the question is, how? By some miraculous magic, or is there a deeper story behind it? How did this country, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, transform itself into one of the world's top 10 economies in just 2 generations? In today's episode, we won't tell a fictional K-drama story. We'll tell a story far more dramatic, far more inspirational, and an incredible reality. We will dive into Korea's 1,000-year history, dissecting the policies and strategies that gave birth to one of the greatest economic wonders of the 20th century, the miracle on the Han River. To truly understand Korea's incredible rise, we must also understand its land and its people. And to understand that, we need to look at the country's geography and history, because Korea's limitations paradoxically became its greatest strengths. Located in the south of the Korean peninsula, the country is slightly larger than West Bengal. Nearly 70% of the country is rugged mountainous terrain, completely unsuitable for extensive agriculture. Winters here are long and extreme. Most importantly, the country has almost no natural resources underground. There is no endless oil reserves like in the Middle East, nor coal or iron mines like in Australia. Moreover, geopolitically, the country is caught in a pincer. On one side is vast China, to the north Russia, and to the east Japan. Throughout history, Korea has been a victim of the rivalry and aggression of these 3 superpowers. This geographical and natural limitation ingrained one thing in the Korean DNA. To survive or prosper, they had to rely not on underground resources, but on the intelligence in people's minds and the labor of their bodies. Korea's history spans thousands of years. Prosperous dynasties like Silla, Goryeo, and Joseon gave birth to knowledge, science, and culture here. But Korea's modern identity was primarily forged from its painful 20th century history. From 1910 to 1945, for a long 35 years, Korea was under harsh and exploitative Japanese rule. It was a dark age. Koreans' own language and culture were suppressed, and they were even forced to change their names. Whatever railways or ports the Japanese built in Korea were not for Korea's development, but for taking Korea's rice, iron, and other resources to Japan. Most horrific was the sexual abuse of Korean women, which created a shameful history known as comfort women. These 35 years of exploitation created a deep wound in the minds of Koreans, giving rise to intense nationalism and an irresistible determination to surpass Japan. After Japan's defeat in World War II, Korea gained freedom, but ironically, it became the first victim of the Cold War. Due to the ideological struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, the country was divided into 2 along the 38th parallel. This division led to the bloodiest fratricidal conflict in history, the Korean War. In this 3-year war, nearly 3 million people were killed or went missing in North and South Korea combined. More than 40% of South Korea's factories and more than 30% of its homes were completely destroyed. The capital Seoul changed hands 4 times and eventually became a ruin. The war virtually ended in an unresolved state, creating the world's most secure and tense border DMZ between the 2 Koreas. At the end of the war, South Korea was literally a pile of ashes. Standing on these ruins, how did a naturally resource-poor divided country reach its current position? This is where the incredible journey that astonished the world begins. Korea's rise was not a sudden event or magic. It was a national plan built on several specific, bold, and strict foundations. Let's analyze these pillars one by one. In 1961, General Park Chung-hee came to power through a military coup. He ruled the country as a dictator for 18 consecutive years. During his rule, democracy was suppressed and there were widespread allegations of human rights violations. This is a dark chapter in South Korea's history. But from an economic perspective, Park Chung-hee was a visionary. He understood that a nation could not be self-respecting by relying on foreign aid. He created a model of guided capitalisms, or state-controlled capitalism. For this, he formed the Economic Planning Boards (EPB) with the country's best economists and created a meticulous plan for the country's development through 5-year plans. His core philosophy was, first, the country's economy must grow, people must have money in their pockets, and then democracy can be considered. His famous quote was, "Spit on my grave, but we must first eradicate our poverty." He didn't just focus on urban industrialization. Through the Saemal Undong's New Village movement, he also modernized Korea's rural areas. The motto of this movement was self-confidence, self-reliance, and cooperation. Through this, villagers themselves built roads, bridges, and houses, changing their own fortunes. The most important and unique part of Park Chung-hee's economic strategy was selecting and providing state patronage to chaebols, Korean family-owned large industrial conglomerates. The government's policy was very risky but clear. They identified a few promising private companies as national champions. The government called companies like Samsung, Hyundai, and LG and said, "Your job is to create world-class products and capture the global market. We will provide whatever you need for this." Loans from state banks at nominal interest, tax breaks, protection from foreign competitors, even government guarantees for your foreign loans. In this model, the government and the private sector worked as Team Korea. Initially, these chaebols started exporting simple products like noodles, sugar, or cheap clothing. Then, slowly, they entered heavy and technology industries like shipbuilding, steel, and finally, semiconductors, automobiles, and electronics. For example, Hyundai first entered the shipbuilding industry and achieved the impossible, becoming the world's best shipbuilder. Then they ventured into car manufacturing and are now one of the world's largest car manufacturers. Samsung started as a trading company and now dominates technology and semiconductors. Of course, this model also created a dark side. These chaebols became overly powerful, which later led to social problems like corruption and abuse of power. But in the 60s and 70s, their role was primary in Korea's rapid industrialization. Koreans knew that their real asset was not oil or diamonds. The real asset was their people. So they invested all their energy and money in human resource development, especially in education. A saying is very common in Korea: education fevers. For their child's best education, Korean parents would sell their land to send them to the best schools. They believed that education was the only key to freedom from poverty and humiliation. The government also gave education the highest priority. A large portion of the national budget was allocated to the education sector. Science and technology education was especially encouraged because skilled engineers and technologists were needed for industrialization. The result was incredible. In just a few decades, Korea's literacy rate reached almost 100%. The country transformed from an uneducated, agrarian society into one of the world's most educated, skilled, and ambitious workforces. This educated and hardworking populace was the main fuel of Korea's economic engine. The wounds of Japanese rule and the Korean War gave rise to two contrasting but powerful emotions among Koreans. One is Han, a collective feeling of sorrow, resentment, and discontent, and the other is intense nationalism and a determination to surpass Japan. This determination gave birth to Korea's famous Poly culture, which means hurry, hurries. This mindset of finishing everything quickly imparted incredible speed to their national reconstruction. For example, the approximately 428-kilometer-long Gyeongbu Expressway from Seoul to Busan was built in just 2.5 years, which was almost impossible with the technology of that time. The biggest test and proof of this nationalism was seen during the Asian financial crisis of 1997, when the country, almost bankrupt under the weight of foreign debt, was forced to accept the tough conditions of the IMF. An unprecedented movement began to protect the nation's sovereignty. Ordinary people, from old to young, donated their saved gold jewelry, wedding rings, medals, everything to repay the country's debt. In this gold collection campaign, approximately 227 tons of gold were collected. This event is an extreme testament to a nation's love for its country and world history. Korea's story didn't stop with industrialization. In the 21st century, they have reinvented themselves once again. After the 1990s, Korea realized that simply copying others' designs cheaply would not make them world-class. To survive, they had to transition from being a fast follower to an innovation leader. Following this, Korea began investing a huge portion of its GDP in research and development, R&D, which is now among the highest in the world. As a result, Samsung now competes with Apple, and Korea leads the world in memory chips, OLED displays, and 5G technology. And in the 21st century, Korea has shown the world its new and most influential weapon: soft power. Korean pop music, or K-pop, Korean dramas, and movies are an unstoppable force in global culture today. BTS, Blackpink, Parasite, Squid Game. These names are no longer just entertainment. They are Korea's national brand. This Korean waves, or Hallyu, generates billions of dollars in business every year and creates a positive image of Korea worldwide, which also aids in the sale of their products. So, what is the secret behind South Korea's incredible rise? There is no single or easy answer. It is a combination of, on one hand, strict but far-sighted state leadership, on the other hand, the mentality of the state and private sectors working as a team, accepting education as the main key to changing the nation's destiny, and a nation's collective determination, nationalism, and blood, sweat, and tears hard work born from history. Korea has proven that even without natural resources, by harnessing only human resources and through proper planning, a country can reach from zero to the pinnacle. However, South Korea still faces some challenges. These include the world's lowest birth rate and a rapidly aging population, intense academic and job pressure on young people, the excessive influence of chaebols and issues of corruption, and of course, the ongoing tension with North Korea. Addressing these challenges will be the biggest test for Korea's next generation.